Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
All right, welcome back to podcast 27 of 2019. Had a nice little break there. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can tweet us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, /the Odds Breakers. We haven't done a lot with social media, but we're starting to. I just put a personal play up on Facebook myself, and we plan on growing those social media sites as well. This episode is being brought to you by mybookie.ag for a 50% sign-up bonus. Please visit MyBookie and use the promo code TheOddsBreakers. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out and sponsor our podcast, well, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com. You click shop and become a member for $12.99 a month. You get my picks and premium picks before the line moves. For $2 more, you get all that. If you become a patron subscriber and the podcast a little bit early. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. Right now, we are rolling through baseball, some NBA, and obviously the NFL season win totals has always begun because the NFL football really never stops for me. I'm always involved in the summer stuff. I love kind of getting a grasp on the season before other people do, so I focus a lot of time on it. As you heard a couple weeks back, our podcast with Chris Felica, Marco D'Angelo, we did the NFC North and the NFC South, and this week we're going to be doing the NFC East and the NFC West season win totals. Just in case you're wondering, sometimes there'll be a premium play that I don't necessarily say involved in these because you can't give out all our plays, but we usually tell you that there's a lean or no play if that happens, and that way, members will definitely get the most plays and the best plays from the Odds Breakers. Before we get into the NFC East and the NFC West, I want to give you a quick update on the sports betting in America legalization. I want to talk about, there's a few more states that are on board now, and we already had New Jersey, Rhode Island, West Virginia, Mississippi, and Nevada. And now we added Pennsylvania, New Mexico, and Delaware. So there's a total of 8 states that sports betting is fully legalized in, and that's awesome. What else is awesome is that there's some bills that are passed in places like Montana, Iowa is about to be on board, Indiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., and New York State, including New York City. But most states have already introduced a bill. It's not passed, but that's good news. Most states introduced a bill that gets some things going and the wheels turning. And there's only a few states that haven't, like Alaska, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Florida. Now, I don't know what's going on with those states there, but obviously if you live in those states, try to reach out to your lawmakers there. Twitter actually works these days, the old school way of writing them, calling them. Try to get that movement happening so you can make legal bets within your state. I also find it kind of strange that within these states, some are doing it differently. Some are saying it has to be brick and mortar places, no online. Some are saying using an app or /online is fine. Some are saying leaving it completely up to the tribes in their places, and I think they're completely missing the boat because they're not going to be collecting the tax money from it. I think there's still going to be people going plenty offshore books if they do that. So they're definitely missing the boat doing that, but they'll learn. Some of these lawmakers definitely are not sports bettors who do not see the opportunity that some of these states like New Jersey has seen and how Nevada's been capitalizing on it for many, many years. So that's covers it. We're going to do updates on the legalization of sports betting in America, periodically, especially if there's some big movement happening. But right now, I definitely urge you to keep bugging your local lawmaker and legislators for that. All right, without further ado, let's get into NFL season win totals. All right, well, like I said before, we did the NFC North and the NFC South, and we're going to finish the NFC by doing the NFC East and the NFC West. So, if you need to know how I come up with some of these numbers, you can definitely go back to the first podcast when we started with the NFC North, but I'll give you a little bit of a refresher. We start with your wins from last year. Then we go to your Pythagorean wins and average that together because, sometimes you got lucky and shouldn't have scored so many points. I take off for injured players, or I give back if you had a lot of injuries. So if a team was very healthy, I'll take some off because you didn't have injured players, I should have said. And when you have had a lot of injured players, especially a quarterback, I tend to give some games back. I look at your 2018 strength of schedule, and if it was below average, I punish you up to a game, sometimes a half game if it was a medium hard schedule or a medium schedule 0. And I look at your 2019 projected strength of schedule going by the Vegas win totals. So if you play a team that a schedule that has a lot of high win numbers expected, then you have a very hard schedule, and I give you a game or take a game away depending upon how hard your schedule is. I look at who you lost in the free agency. I look at your draft and who you've picked up in free agency, reward you half game, quarter game, game here and there for that. And then I kind of add that up. And I also look at the eye test. I look at your schedule, seeing if there's any bad spots, count up the wins, but mostly I go from my number unless I'm way off with what I counted by circling W's and L's. That's how I personally do it, and I come up with a number. A little bit more of a scientific way of looking at things. Starting with the NFC East. This division plays the NFC North, which is kind of tough, and then they play the AFC East, which most likely favors these NFC East teams because you had the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills. Now, I think a couple of those teams are better than before, but we can get into that later. The Patriots are the Patriots, but they are older, obviously. But, the Packers, Lions, and Vikings, they all missed the playoffs last year. So, people are looking at the NFC East in general as having a easier schedule. I mean, the NFL is the biggest corrector of people predicting things and evening things out from the year before. So I'm not completely buying into it, but that's why I use all those other data points to obviously come up with win totals. It's going to be interesting for sure. All right, the Dallas Cowboys, starting with them, they won the division. Their Vegas win total is 8.5 this year. I believe they won 10 games last year. And what their schedule says is medium easy. Their at-large games are against the New Orleans Saints and the LA Rams, which looks hard, obviously. But it's medium easy compared to the teams they're playing from a Vegas win total perspective. Their key losses are wide receiver Cole Beasley, David Irving at tackle, defensive tackle that is, tight end Jeff Swain, linebacker Damian Wilson. Key additions, wide receiver Randall Cobb, defensive end Robert Quinn, Jason Witten's back, and a couple other guys. So who they drafted, defensive tackle Tristan Hill, guard Connor McGovern, running back Tony Pollard, cornerback Michael Jackson, defensive end Joe Jackson, and a few other lower picks. So here's the summary. Big D hasn't really lost a lot last year. As you see, who cares? Cole Beasley, David Irving, and they had a 10-win team. But they didn't gain a lot either. Randall Cobb is going to easily replace Cole Beasley. Jason Witten's pretty old. They had a fantastic defense led last year by Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, that kid shocked me. He was from Boise State, I believe. He proved to possibly be the best or the second best behind Roquan Smith, linebacker from this 2018 draft. I was shocked personally how good this kid is. Now, Dak's got some weapons. Randall Cobb on the slot, Witten unretiring, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup is going to be better. And so the Cowboys started late in the draft because of the Amari Cooper trade. But the weird thing is their secondary is what they were really missing, and they didn't really fill any gaps there. Now, it was really deep secondary draft, so we'll see how their guys turn out. There's going to be some luck involved there. But their schedule isn't too hard, but everything depends upon Dak Prescott here. Is he the man that can take him over the hump, right? Ezekiel Elliott, he's very durable. What I don't like about the Cowboys is the team's Pythagorean win total last year was 8.5. Okay? That's a big difference from 10 wins. That's a game and a half for their total points, scored and their points given up on a Pythagorean win total. So here's how I got to my win total, which is 9.55. Take the 10 wins from last year, 8.5 Pythag, you're at about a 9.3. They were a little bit injured last year. I mean, their defense was a little bit banged up. They lost Frederick, their center. Ezekiel Elliott was suspended, so I'm actually giving them a quarter game back for that. But their 2018 strength of schedule was also medium easy, so you take a half game away from that. But this year's strength of schedule is medium easy, so you give it right back. I got them 0 on the key losses. I don't think they lost anything that's going to cost them a half game or quarter game. But for the draft and free agency, I'm not really giving them anything either. Okay? So that brings me at 9.55 actual wins projected. Vegas's win total is at 8.5, lower than mine. So I guess I lean over in this, but it's nothing that I'm going to jump after. As you remember from before, I need at least a game and a half to make a move. And sometimes I need a little bit more than that. So, sorry, Cowboy fans, but if you do want to bet the over, I'm definitely leaning your way.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
All right, next we're moving into the Philadelphia Eagles. They had 9 wins last year. And I'll tell you, this was the Super Bowl winner of the year before. So, the scary thing about the Eagles is they might be better than the Cowboys, but they just had some bad injuries last year, and they really didn't pull it all together until later with Nick Foles. Their schedule is medium easy. Their at-large games are against the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. So nothing too easy. Their key losses is quarterback Nick Foles, because Carson Wentz, probably hard to live with Nick Foles there after what he's done, and Carson Wentz was the top draft pick and the paid guy, so the younger guy, but he's a little bit injury prone. They lost inside linebacker Jordan Hicks, which I think is a big loss. Golden Tate, wide receiver. Defensive end Michael Bennett. I'm okay with that. And defensive tackle Haloti Nada. Wide receiver Jordan Matthews. Key additions. Defensive tackle Malik Jackson. Wide receiver Deshaun Jackson's back. Inside linebacker LJ Fort. Defensive end Vinny Curry. And safety Andrew Sendeo. Who they drafted? They got a tackle in Andre Dillard. Miles Sanders at running back. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside at wide receiver. And quarterback Clayton Thorson and Sharif Miller at defensive end. So this sneaky Eagles team had an amazing finish to the season, right? To get back in the playoffs, to beat the Bears. Of course, it took double doink to do that. But I think this was due to Nick Foles, how clutch this kid is, right? He's just so clutch when it comes to big games. Now, Doug Peterson should know that there's a lot of pressure on Carson Wentz, okay? I mean, a ton of pressure. And that's why I think that's why they tried to beef up their defense from some of the people that they lost. You know, the Eagles' pass defense was horrible, right? Horrible. but that was due to the injuries of Darby